The throne room was silent, heavy with fear. Tall black pillars rose like sharp teeth, and the golden fire from the braziers painted shadows across the cold stone floor. Every noble, every servant, every soldier kept their head low, afraid to even breathe too loudly. At the far end of the hall sat the emperor, an old man, but his eyes burned like fire under the heavy crown. His presence was enough to crush a man's spirit without him speaking a word. Tonight, however, his voice broke. The silence, the daughters I raised, they are weak. His words rolled across the chamber like thunder. They laugh, they waste, they live soft lives in silk and perfume while our enemies sharpen their blades. Tell me, is this what heirs to the throne should be? No one dared to answer. Everyone knew this was not a question. It was a command hidden inside his rage. The emperor's gaze turned to his daughters. 5 of them stood together, cloaked in shimmering royal robes, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. The eldest, Princess Soraya, tried to meet her father's eyes, but her heart trembled in her chest. The youngest, little Alira, hid her face in her sister's sleeve. Shivering, "You will be sent away," the emperor declared. "To the humans." Gasps echoed through the hall. The word humans carried weight like a curse. The empire considered humans dangerous, stubborn, unbreakable creatures. Creatures who had defied the stars themselves and refused to kneel even before alien kings. To send princesses there was unthinkable. Soraya's lips parted. "Father, silence." His voice cracked like a whip, and she bit her tongue until it bled. "You will go for re-education," he continued, his face like carved stone. "Humans will harden you. They will tear weakness out of your hearts and burn it in fire. When you return, you will be warriors, leaders, worthy of my blood, or you will not return at all." Whispers rose through the court. Some nobles smirked, jealous of the daughter's fall. Others looked horrified, but dared not show pity. The second princess, Lysandra, broke from the line, her long silver hair shining like moonlight as she dropped to her knees. "Father, please. Not the humans. They are savages, they treat even. They're women like soldiers and slaves." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then learn from savages, child. Better a savage than a spoiled doll." Lysandra shook, tears sliding down her cheeks. She wanted to scream, but the guard's cold steel pressed against her shoulders, forcing her back into line. The court fell silent again. The emperor raised his hand, and the great doors opened. Human soldiers entered, 3 of them, tall in their strange armor, their faces bare. Unlike the Empire's guards, they carried themselves with an ease that almost looked like arrogance. They did not kneel before the emperor. They only gave a short nod, their eyes steady, unafraid. The daughters stared at them in shock. To stand in their father's throne room and not kneel? No alien ever dared such a thing. The eldest princess felt a chill. These humans were different. They feared nothing, not even her father. The emperor gestured at the humans. "These are the instructors. They will escort you to the human colonies. There, you will be broken and rebuilt." His voice dropped lower, colder. "You will thank me one day." The youngest princess finally spoke, her small voice trembling. "I will never bow to a human." Every head turned toward her. "Even." The emperor's brows rose slightly. For a moment, silence crushed the air. Then he laughed a deep, cruel laugh that made the walls shake. "Never bow?" His teeth glimmered under the firelight. "Then we shall see, little one. You will bow, or you will burn." The guards moved forward, chains of silver light ready to bind the princesses. One by one, the daughters were led away, their footsteps echoing against the stone. Some cried silently, some bit their lips until blood came, but none could resist. Only Soraya, the eldest, kept her head high as the doors closed behind them. Her heart pounded, her mind a storm. She had heard whispers of humans before, creatures who raised their children in freedom, who laughed even in poverty, who defied every empire that tried to crush them. Could it be true? Or was this another cruel trick of her father's enemies? As the chains tightened around her wrists, she looked once more at her father on the throne. His face was calm, his eyes like ice. For the first time in her life, Saraya felt something stronger than fear. She felt anger. The humans turned, leading the daughters out of the throne room. The last sound was the Emperor's voice, echoing through the black pillars. "When you return, you will be mine." But Saraya whispered under her breath, a whisper no one heard but the youngest at her side. "No, father, when I return, I will be something more." The doors slammed shut. Darkness swallowed the chamber. The Empire's greatest secret had just begun. The journey through space felt endless. Locked in a transport ship, the Emperor's daughters sat in silence, their wrists bound by glowing restraints. No one spoke. Even the youngest, Alira, who once cried without end, had grown quiet. They could feel the humans' eyes on them. Unlike the guards of the Empire, these humans didn't stand stiff like statues. They leaned against walls, shared quiet words with each other, even smiled. That smile unsettled the princesses more than cruelty would have. Cruelty they understood. Smiles? That was unfamiliar. When the ship finally shook with descent, Saraya's heart raced. Through the narrow viewport, she saw a world unlike any palace garden. A human world. It was not filled with crystal towers or floating cities. Instead, green stretched forever, rolling fields of grass, forests like dark oceans, rivers glittering under sunlight. Villages dotted the land, simple and small, their rooftops of wood and stone. The second princess, Lysandra, whispered in disbelief, This is dirt. Father sent us to live in mud." But Saraya was quiet. There was something strange in the air. Something clean. Something free. The ship touched down on a wide plateau. As the ramp lowered, warm wind rushed. Inside, the smell of soil and flowers filled the air, so natural, so wild, it almost stung their senses. The daughters hesitated, but the humans motioned them forward. When their feet touched human soil, something strange happened. The chains vanished. "Walk," one of the human soldiers said simply. No whip, no shove. Just a command. The princesses looked at one another in shock. In the Empire, disobedience brought instant pain. Here, the humans didn't even raise their weapons. The youngest, Alira, refused to move. "No, I won't walk for humans," she shouted. The soldier crouched too. Her height. His armor creaked as he leaned close, his eyes calm, not cruel. "Then sit," he said softly. "The world will wait for you." The sisters froze. No alien soldier had ever spoken like that. No one ever let them choose. Alira blinked, confused. And after a long moment, she stood and walked on her own. They were taken to a settlement built of wood and stone, surrounded by farmland. People worked in fields, men, women, even children. They carried baskets, pulled tools, and laughed as they worked, laughed. The sound made the princesses stiffen. In the Empire, labor was done in silence, under fear. But here, laughter echoed like music. That night, the princesses were given a small house, each a simple bed with wool blankets. No golden silk, no jeweled walls. But the beds were warm. The fire crackled gently. Bread and stew were placed before them. The youngest sniffed the food suspiciously. "Poison." Saraya tasted it first. Her eyes widened. It was warm, rich, and strangely comforting. "No," she whispered, almost to herself. "It's good." One by one, the others ate, hunger overpowering fear. But sleep did not come easily. From outside the house, they heard something new, human laughter again, but this time from a group gathered around a fire. Shadows danced across the walls as humans told stories to one another. The sound was warm, alive. The second princess whispered, "They laugh even in darkness, like they do not fear death." The eldest, Saraya, stared into the flames of their own small hearth. "Or maybe," she said softly, "they laugh because of it." For the first time in their lives, silence did not feel heavy. It felt strange, unfamiliar, almost safe. But safety was dangerous. The next morning, training began. The humans led them into the fields, not to whip them, but to hand them tools. "You will learn to work," one soldier said. "With your hands," the daughters recoiled. "Princesses digging dirt? Unthinkable." Lysandra raised her chin. "We are of royal blood. We do not touch soil." The human only shrugged. "Then starve." He tossed her a shovel and walked away. The sisters stood in stunned silence. No punishment, no chains, just choice. Work or hunger. Hours passed. Finally, Saraya gripped the shovel. Her hands blistered quickly, sweat rolling down her brow. Every muscle ached. But when she paused to breathe, she saw something she never expected. A human child, no older than a lira, carrying twice the weight she did, and smiling. That smile was not weakness. It was strength. Saraya's heart twisted. Later, when the sun fell, the humans gathered again at the fire. This time, one soldier motioned to the princesses, "Sit, listen." They hesitated, but curiosity pulled them close. A human began telling. A tale, not of kings, not of wars, but of a simple farmer who protected his family from a flood. The villagers laughed, cheered, and even cried. The youngest princess whispered, "Why do they share stories like this?" The soldier beside her answered, "Because it keeps us alive. Stories remind us who we are." Saraya looked at the faces around the fire, faces that glowed with life in ways she had never seen in the Empire. And for the first time, she wondered if her father was wrong. But then, as she returned to her bed that night, she remembered his command, "When you return, you will be mine." Her chest tightened. Was this re-education? Or was it something far more dangerous? Cliffhanger. The eldest lay awake, staring at the ceiling. From outside, she heard laughter again. But instead of fear, she felt heat in her chest. And realized she wasn't sure if it was anger or something else entirely. Asterisk. The morning began with a whistle. Sharp, loud, cutting through the quiet of the human settlement. The princesses sat up from their wooden beds, their eyes heavy with confusion. In the Empire, servants woke them with soft music, sometimes with sweet perfume. Here, the sound was harsh, yet it carried no malice. Outside, humans had already begun their day. Men and women moved quickly, carrying buckets, sharpening tools, preparing for the long work ahead. Even children had chores there. Small hands busy stacking wood or leading animals to pasture. The eldest, Saraya, watched through the window with disbelief. "Even their nobles must be farmers," she whispered. A human voice interrupted her thought. "Out, all of you." It was Captain Rowan, the human instructor who had led them from the throne room. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that never flinched. His face carried lines of hardship, but when he spoke, his tone was steady, not cruel. The princesses stepped outside reluctantly. The youngest, Alira, rubbed her eyes. "What will you do to us today? Make us scrub the dirt again?" Rowan smirked. "Not today. Today, you learn what it means to stand together." The princesses frowned. They expected whips, chains, shouted orders. Instead, the humans gathered them in a circle. Villagers joined 2 men, women, even the gray-haired and the lame. Rowan raised his voice. "Here, no one stands above the other. When the storms come, when the enemy arrives, when hunger strikes, we only survive by standing side by side. Today you join us," the second princess Lysandra scoffed. "We are royalty, we stand above all." The villagers only laughed. Not in mockery, but in amusement, as if she were a child throwing a tantrum. Lyssandra's face flushed red. Then, "Show us," Rowan said calmly. He placed a heavy wooden log on the ground. "One princess against one storm. Lift it." Lysandra bent, straining with all her might. The log barely shifted. She gasped for breath, shame burning her cheeks as the villagers chuckled softly. Rowan motioned to Saraya. "Now all of you." Hesitant, the sisters bent together, their delicate hands gripping the rough wood. With effort, sweat, and gritted teeth, they lifted it. Not easily, not gracefully, but together. The crowd clapped. A child shouted, "See, even princesses can learn." The sisters' pride ached, but in their chests something stirred. They had been mocked, yes, but not with cruelty. With honesty. That afternoon, training changed. Humans taught them to carry water in buckets across long fields. They stumbled, spilled, and cursed. The villagers laughed again, but some helped, showing tricks, adjusting grips, steadying hands. Saraya found herself listening to one human soldier, a younger man named Kale. His voice was light, teasing. "Grip the handle tighter, princess, or the water will run away faster than you." Her eyes narrowed. "You dare mock me?" Kale only smiled. "I dare help you. Unless you'd rather fall on your face again?" She bit back a sharp reply. But when she walked, holding the bucket just as he showed, the water stayed. She hated to admit it. But he was right. That evening, bruised and blistered, the sisters collapsed near the fire. The villagers sat with them, sharing bread and stories. A pillager sat with them. Gray-haired woman leaned toward Alira, handing her a small piece of fruit. "Eat, little one. You worked today." Alira blinked. "Why are you kind? You gain nothing." The woman smiled softly. "Because tomorrow I may need your kindness. Too, that is how we live." The youngest's lips trembled. She had no answer. Later, as the fire crackled, a villager began to sing. The song was simple, about harvest and family, but the sound touched something deep. The princesses exchanged uneasy glances. Songs in the empire were hymns to power, to conquest. This was different. This was human. Rowan's voice cut through the firelight. "Tomorrow you learn to fight." The daughters stiffened. "You brought us here to be slaves." Lysandra hissed. Rowan shook his head slowly. "No, we brought you here to be strong. Strength is not given, it is built." His eyes lingered on Saraya. "And humans know how to build it better than anyone." The firelight flickered across his face, his words sharp as steel. That night, Saraya could not sleep. She lay on the rough blanket, her body aching, her mind restless. She remembered Kale's smirk, the gray-haired woman's kindness, the way villagers laughed together. None of it made sense. Humans were supposed to be monsters, savages, dangerous beasts. Yet, what she saw was something else. Something more frightening, not cruelty. Not chains. But freedom. And freedom, she realized, was far more dangerous than any whip. Cliffhanger. As Saraya's eyes finally closed, she heard the humans laughing again outside the fire. But this time, the sound no longer made her afraid. It made her heart beat faster. And she whispered into the dark, "Father, what have you sent us into?" The human camp was no longer strange. By now, the Emperor's daughters woke with the same whistle as the villagers, carried water, worked the fields, and trained with wooden spears. Their hands had grown harder. Their steps were steadier. The softness their father had cursed was being burned away, yet not in the way he had planned. But at night, when the fire dimmed, the real struggle began. Saraya sat awake, staring into the embers. Her body ached from training, but her thoughts burned hotter than her muscles. She had sworn loyalty to her father all her life. Every lesson in the palace taught her the Empire's law: obey, conquer, dominate. Yet here, She had seen something that defied every teaching, humans helping one another without fear, laughing in hardship, giving freely, and worse. She had begun to feel it too. That evening, Kale, the young human soldier who often trained beside her, sat down near the fire, close enough that she could feel his warmth. He didn't ask permission. He didn't bow. He simply sat, as if she were just another person. "You fight better today," he said with a grin. Her jaw tightened. "You mock me again?" He shook his head, his eyes catching the glow of the fire. "No, I respect you. You don't quit even when your arms shake. That is strength." No court noble, no imperial guard, had ever spoken such words to her. Respect, not because of her blood, but because of her effort. Her heart pounded faster than it should. She turned away sharply. "Your respect means nothing to me." Kale only smiled. "Then why do you blush?" Her eyes flashed, but she had no answer. Meanwhile, the second Princess Lysandra was locked in her own war. She despised the humans for their laughter, their insolence. Yet she could not ignore what she saw each day. A lame farmer given a seat. First at the fire, children speaking freely to elders without fear, even soldiers joking with villagers like equals. In the Empire, weakness was discarded. Here, it was protected. One night, Lysandra whispered angrily to Soraya, "They are soft. That is why they will fall." But Soraya replied softly, "Or perhaps it is why they rise." The words cut deeper than a blade. The youngest princess, Alira, who once screamed that she would never bow, now followed a human woman into the fields every morning. She asked questions, touched the soil, even smiled when given fruit. She no longer looked like the same child who had left the palace. The sisters were changing, yet the Empire had not forgotten them. One morning, Rowan entered the camp holding a sealed imperial message. The villagers grew tense. Even the humans fell silent as he read aloud. "The Emperor demands progress reports. His patience is thin. His daughters must show loyalty when he arrives for inspection." Inspection. The word echoed like thunder in their ears. The daughters froze. Their father was coming. That night, fear spread among them like poison. Lysandra wept in silence, terrified of her father's wrath. Alira clung to Soraya, whispering, "He will see what we have become. He will kill us." Soraya's own heart twisted. The truth was clear. If the Emperor saw them laughing with humans, training like villagers, even daring to feel respect or love toward these savages, his fury would be endless. But deep inside, she felt something stronger than fear. She thought of Kale's eyes at the fire. She thought of Rowan's lessons about standing together. She thought of villagers who sang even when tired, who shared food with strangers, who lived without chains. For the first time in her life, she wanted to defy her father. Late that night, as the camp slept, Soraya walked silently to the edge of the village. She found Kale sharpening his blade under the moonlight. "You should not be awake," he said without looking up. "I cannot sleep," she whispered. He glanced at her, his smirk fading at the sight of her troubled eyes. "Because of your father?" She nodded. The words tumbled from her lips before she could stop them. "If he comes, if he sees what I feel, he will destroy me." Kale's gaze held hers, steady, unflinching. "Then don't let him." Her breath caught. "You don't understand. He is the Emperor. His will is law." Kale shook his head. "No, his will is fear. That's not the same as law. You've seen it our way. We stand together, even against kings." Soraya's chest tightened. His words were madness, dangerous madness. And yet, they stirred her blood like fire. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Only the sound of the wind moved through the grass. Then Kale leaned closer, his voice lower, softer. "You have to choose, Princess. His chains or your heart." Her lips parted, but no words came. Behind them, the first embers of dawn painted the sky red. The day of inspection was near, and Soraya knew the struggle was no longer only about survival. It was about blood and heart. The air in the village grew heavier with every passing day. Everyone knew the Emperor's inspection was coming. Even the humans who never bowed to kings grew quiet when Rowan mentioned it. The daughters felt it like a chain around their throats. But something else grew too, something their father never expected. That night, when the fire burned low, Soraya slipped away from her sisters. She walked toward the training yard where Kale often sharpened blades. He was there again, moonlight on his face, steel flashing in his hands. "You should rest," he said without looking up. "I cannot," Soraya whispered. He raised his head. Meeting her eyes, for a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was louder than any words. Soraya's heart thudded painfully. "My father will come soon, if he sees me here with you." Her voice broke. Kale leaned his sword against the post and stepped closer. "Then let him see." Her breath caught. "You don't understand. He will kill you." Kale's lips curved in a half-smile. "I've faced death before, but I've never faced this." His hand hovered near hers, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat. For a moment, she almost reached out, almost, but fear clamped around her chest, and she turned away. "I cannot," she whispered again. Yet her voice was weak, trembling, not certain. Kale let her go, but his eyes followed her into the dark. Elsewhere, Lysandra battled her own storm. She told herself she hated humans, hated their laughter, their freedom, their defiance. But when Rowan spoke during training, she found herself listening. When he corrected her stance with a steady hand, she felt her heart skip. She despised herself for it. She despised him more for making her feel it. Yet she could not stop the warmth growing in her chest every time his voice called her stronger than the day before. Even Alira, the youngest, was changing faster than anyone realized. She followed the farmer woman like a shadow, learning how to plant seeds, how to wash wool, how to carry water without spilling a drop. She laughed freely now. When her sisters scolded her, she only said, "They treat me like family. Why should I not smile?" The cracks were growing. The Emperor's daughters were no longer only his blood. They were becoming something else. One night, a storm struck. Rain hammered the roofs, thunder shook the fields, and the river near the village swelled dangerously. The villagers rushed to save what they could, tying ropes, lifting supplies, moving animals to higher ground. "Stay." Inside, Rowan shouted at the princesses, but Soraya refused. "No, if they work, we work too." She grabbed a rope, her hand slipping, her body soaked. Beside her, Kale appeared, steadying her grip. Their shoulders pressed together as they fought against the rushing water. Lightning split the sky, and for a heartbeat their faces were inches apart, rain dripping down, breaths heavy dot in that wild storm. Chains of the Empire shattered. Kale's hand slid over hers on the rope. "You're stronger than you think," Soraya whispered back, her lips trembling. "Or maybe I am weaker than I should be." But neither let go. When the storm finally eased, the village gathered around the fire, soaked and shivering, but alive. Food was passed, blankets shared. Humans clapped the princesses on the back, praising their effort as if they were comrades. Alira beamed proudly. Lysandra stayed silent, but her eyes betrayed something softer. And Soraya. She sat beside Kale, closer than before, her body aching, but her heart alive in a way it had never been in her father's palace. That night, when the fire dimmed, Rowan approached the sisters. His face was serious, his voice low. "Your father will come soon," he said. "You must choose how you will stand before him. As his obedient heirs, or as something else." Soraya's chest tightened. Lysandra's fists clenched. Alira bit her lip. "What are you saying?" Lysandra asked sharply. Rowan's gaze was steady. I am saying that bonds have been made here, bonds your father would call forbiddens. But bonds made in truth are stronger than blood. His eyes flicked toward Saria, then toward Kale, her breath caught. For the first time, someone had spoken aloud the thing she feared most. The bond she had tried to hide. Forbiddens. Dangerous. Irreversible. And deep inside, she knew it was already too late to undo it. Cliffhanger. That night, as Saria lay in bed, she felt her hand drift to her chest where Kale's hand had touched during the storm. She closed her eyes, whispering into the dark, "Father, if you see me now, you will not see your daughter. You will see someone else." Asterisk. The great starship loomed above the Emperor's palace, its shadow falling across the golden spires. The entire court gathered in the throne hall, whispering with excitement and fear. It had been months since the princesses were sent away. Now, the Emperor himself sat waiting, his eyes sharp as blades. He expected broken dolls, hardened soldiers, daughters carved into weapons. Instead, what returned would shatter his empire. The great doors opened. Boots echoed on the stone floor. The daughters entered, cloaked in heavy fabric, their faces hidden beneath hoods. Behind them walked their human escorts, Kale, Rowan, and others unbowed, unchained, unafraid even in the heart of the Empire. The nobles gasped. To see humans walk in the throne room without chains was an insult, a crime. But the Emperor did not blink. His gaze was locked on his daughters. "Remove your hoods," he commanded slowly. The princesses obeyed. Gasps tore through the court. They had changed. Their eyes were sharper, their bodies lean with muscle, their skin marked with scars of training. They no longer carried the soft glow of sheltered royals. They looked alive, dangerous, but it was not the strength that shocked the court most. It was the way they stood tall, proud, unbowed, even before the Emperor himself. "You have returned," the Emperor said coldly. "Have you learned obedience?" Saria, the eldest, raised her chin. "We have learned." Her voice was calm, strong. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then kneel." The hall froze. Every noble leaned forward, breathless. This was the true test. The daughters exchanged glances. Lysandra trembled, torn between fear and defiance. Alira bit her lip, clutching Saria's sleeve. The weight of the Empire pressed on them. Saria's heart thundered. She saw Kale at the edge of her vision, steady, silent, waiting. His presence was like fire in her veins, and then she did not kneel. Gasps erupted. Nobles cried out in horror. The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. "You dare defy me?" He roared. Saria stepped forward, her cloak shifting, and the hall fell into stunned silence. In her arms, wrapped in soft cloth, was a child, small, fragile, its skin pale, its hair dark, its eyes unmistakably human. The Emperor's breath caught. For a heartbeat, even he was silent, then rage thundered through him. "What is this?" Saria's voice did not waver. "This is my son, born of human blood." The court erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted, some in disgust, others in shock. Soldiers drew weapons, but froze under the Emperor's raised hand. His fury shook the pillars themselves. "You shame me," he spat. "You shame your blood. You bring filth into my hall." But Saria did not lower her eyes. She pressed the child closer, her voice firm. "No, father. I bring life. I bring strength. Humanity has given me what your empire never could choice." Behind her, Lysandra threw off her cloak, revealing a second child cradled against her. Her voice trembled but did not break. "We are not broken. We are reborn." Alira stepped forward too, though her arms were empty. Her voice rang with fire. "You wanted us hardened, and we are, but not in your way. We are stronger because of them." The Emperor rose from his throne, his robes flowing like storm clouds. His face was carved in wrath, his voice a blade. "You are no daughters of mine." But the words no longer crushed them. For the first time in their lives, they stood taller than their father's shadow. The nobles watched in stunned silence. Some with horror, some with secret awe. The Emperor's perfect control had cracked. And the humans? They stood calmly, unbowed, as if daring the Emperor to strike them down. Soraya looked him in the eyes, her voice low but carrying through the hall. "You sent us for re-education, and we learned. We learned that fear is not strength. We learned that chains do not build loyalty. We learned that humanity is not weakness." She paused, holding the child higher for all to see. "And now, we return not as your heirs, but as something you cannot control." The Emperor's hands shook with rage. "Then you return." As enemies, his soldiers stepped forward, weapons raised. The court gasped, waiting for blood to spill, but Soraya did not move. She only whispered, almost to herself, but loud enough that Kale heard. "Father, you wanted warriors. Now face the ones you created." Cliffhanger. The torches flickered, soldiers closed in, and for the first time in history, the Emperor stood face to face with his daughters, not as children, not as heirs, but as defiant women with humanity burning in their veins. The throne hall shook with the roar of soldiers. Steel clashed as ranks of the Emperor's guard raised their weapons. The air grew thick with fear, yet the daughters did not kneel. Soraya stood tall, the human child in her arms. Lysandra clutched, her newborn close, her chin trembling but lifted. Alira, the youngest, pressed herself against her sisters, her eyes burning with fire. The Emperor's voice thundered through the chamber. "Kill the half-bloods. Kill the humans. Let no trace of this shame remain." The soldiers advanced, but then something happened. From the edges of the hall, whispers spread. Nobles leaned closer, guards hesitated. Their eyes locked not on the humans, not even on the Emperor, but on the children. Fragile, small, innocent. They had never seen such a thing. The blood of humanity and the blood of the Empire, beating together in one heart. For the first time, the Emperor's soldiers faltered. Rowan stepped forward, his spear gleaming under the torchlight. "Strike them down if you wish," he called, his voice steady. "But know this: humans do not fear death. We have lived with it always. Kill us, and others will rise." Kale's voice followed, firm and unshaken. "But if you let them live, these children will bind your blood to ours. That is not weakness, that is survival." The hall fell silent. Even the Emperor's fury could not drown out those words. Soraya's voice cut through the silence, calm but sharp as steel. "Father, you built your empire on fear. Humanity builds with love, with laughter, with freedom. Which one will last? Longer?" The Emperor's eyes blazed. "Love is weakness." "No," Soraya replied, her gaze unbroken. "Love is strength. Stronger than chains. Stronger than crowns. Stronger than you." The words struck like lightning. Nobles gasped, some covering their mouths. Others looked away, afraid. But a few, just a few, looked at the princesses with something dangerous in their eyes. Hope. The Emperor roared, rising from his throne. His voice shook the pillars. "Then you defy me openly? You would tear down centuries of blood and rule for these animals?" Lysandra, trembling, stepped forward. Her child whimpered in her arms. She lifted the baby high for all to see. "They are not animals. They are future." The words echoed, soft but unstoppable. Like a seed planted in dry soil, it took root in every ear that heard it. The guards wavered, their spears shook. No one struck. The Emperor's face twisted with rage. His empire was cracking, not from war, not from rebellion, but from his own. Blood refusing to kneel. "Traitors!" He spat. "You are no daughters of mine." Soraya's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Then we will make our own family, a new one. One that even you cannot break." And with that, she turned. Cloak sweeping, child in her arms, she walked toward the great doors. Lysandra followed, clutching her infant tight. Alira walked last, head held high, her small hands trembling but unafraid. The guards parted. Not one raised a blade, the Emperor's roar shook the chamber. "Stop them, I command it." But no one moved, not one soldier, not one noble. His command fell like ash in the wind. The great doors opened. Light spilled into the throne hall. Humanity walked with the princesses into the dawn. Behind them, the Emperor sat frozen on his throne, surrounded by silence, his empire trembling for the first time. Outside the palace, the sky was wide and endless. Soraya looked down at the child in her arms. His small hand gripped her finger, strong despite his size. Kale stepped beside her, his voice quiet. "You've done what no one else dared." Soraya looked at him, her lips curving into a faint smile. "No, we have." The princesses gathered close, the children nestled safe, and the humans stood around them like a shield. For the first time in their lives, they felt something stronger than power. They felt free. In the days to come, whispers would spread. Stories of princesses who defied an emperor, of human blood mingling with alien royalty, of children born not of chains but of choice. And those stories, like seeds, would grow. Some said the emperor's wrath would never fade. Others said his rule was already broken, shattered the moment his daughters walked away. But one truth echoed, louder than all. The future no longer belonged to the emperor, it belonged to the children of humanity.